Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday. Welcome into the Cam Rogers Show here on January 19th, 2018. It's Conference Championship weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I'm getting you set. Cam Rogers coming at you here on Chat Sports, Facebook Live. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. We have a jam-packed program, ladies and gentlemen. Very excited to have you come along for the ride here. Let's take a look at what we have within the hour. I am crunching the numbers to the core, previewing the AFC and NFC championship games respectively. I'm going to go through all of the key matchups, the storylines. Tom Brady, will he be suiting up on Sunday afternoon? I got all the latest with that. Then later in the show, I am ranking the Super Bowl 52 potential matchups here. So, of course, we got the Final Four in the NFL. There are only 4 potential matchups that could go down. I'll go through 4 to 1 and give you the spread for each game, and then play a little hypothetical game here. I have hypothetical scores for each of those games, plus the latest Super Bowl 52 odds, and Casino Cam is back. I'll give you a couple of best bets to where you should throw your money down. Then later in the program, for all of you out there that are engaged in the offseason, maybe you're a Chief fan or a Cowboys fan, etc. I've got top potential salary cap cuts to go through. I'll count you down from 10 to 1 in that segment. And then I got the latest NFL rumors as well. And a final word about Le'Veon Bell and how he is not being a great teammate, or at least he wasn't prior to that Jacksonville Jaguars game. What am I talking about? I'll tell you later in the show. You can get the Cam Rogers Show wherever you go by downloading the podcast version. There is the site at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/camshow, and it'll pop up right there for you. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the Cam Rogers Show on the go. And, you know, if you're feeling generous, leave a review as well. We certainly appreciate that. And we are here on Facebook Live, so we want you commenting, reacting, throwing in your thoughts about the various topics that I discuss here today. Are you a Jaguars fan for the week? I can understand that. A lot of Patriot haters out there. We got, I'm sure, a lot of Skull representatives in the program right now watching the show, as well as the Fly Eagle Fly fans out there. So definitely throw in where you are watching from. And this edition of the Cam Rogers Show, episode 54, is presented by Mizzen and Main. Fantastic performance fabric shirts that you will love. No ironing needed, no dry cleaning needed, and sweat wicking technology. Beautiful thing. Comfortable.af is the website. So many thanks to Mizzen and Main with, by the way, American-made products sponsoring today's Cam Rogers Show. All right, let's get into it. Jacksonville and New England. They will be the first game on your Conference Championship Sunday slate. 3:05 Eastern Time. The big storyline right now, Tom Brady and his hand. Bill Belichick was just at the podium moments ago, was asked if Tom Brady will be a game-time decision. And Bill Belichick simply said, it's Friday. You know, I could go off on a tangent in terms of why reporters even bother. Like, why even show up to the Bill Belichick press conferences anymore? Unless you're, like, going to ask fun questions, you're not going to get anything from the guy. So Tom Brady missed practice officially yesterday. So by NFL rules, teams have to report on their injury report whether or not a player was limited, didn't practice, etc. Tom Brady was listed officially as out in terms of practice yesterday. There is the picture that surfaced on social media. And you take a look at Tom's thumb there on the left side of your screen. It's quite clear it's a little swollen, and that's his throwing hand. Now, I'm not going to parse his thumb to the core here in terms of, you know, will he be limited and all that stuff. But I will say it's something to monitor, right? I mean, you look at Tom Brady's stats in the month of December, and it kind of supports the theory that maybe he was a little banged up with his hand, because there was a report that came out earlier this year that Tom Brady actually broke his hand in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Now, I don't fully believe in that because Tom Brady's numbers in the month of November were fantastic, but December, 64.7 completion percentage, 7.45 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a shade over 80 in terms of passer rating. So you look at Tom's numbers from the month of December, and it kind of supports that theory that maybe there could be something going on here with this hand. Now, according to reports, this latest hand injury stemmed from a handoff that occurred during practice earlier this week, and Tom Brady ran into a player. And it's funny, none of the New England players out there are saying which player ran into Tom Brady. Now, limited Tom Brady or 100% healthy Tom Brady, I still think the New England Patriots should be favored in this game. Blake Bortles in Foxborough cannot be trusted. Prior to the postseason, I had New England going to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to tell you why. The New England Patriots are in fine fashion because they can still attack Jacksonville's weakness on defense. It's that interior of that defense. So Dion Lewis and company going inside against Jacksonville's front 7, and then Rob Gronkowski in the middle of the field against those linebackers, Miles Jack and Telvin Smith. That's where New England can win this game. The middle of the field, the interior of that Jacksonville defense, because if it becomes a game where Tom Brady is challenging A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey on the outside, that's when problems will occur, because Tom's going to have to sit back there in the pocket, and here comes Calais Campbell and company, Yannick Ngakoue, getting after Tom Brady. That's not going to be the game plan. So throughout this preview here, we want to know from you, are you a Jaguars fan for the week? Because literally it seems like everybody outside of Foxborough doesn't want the Patriots to win this football game. So give us a Go Jags if you are a Jaguars fan this week. So, of course, that #1 story is Tom Brady and his health. More details on this. Brady's x-rays revealed no structural damage. And the issue, quote, sounds manageable, according to Ian Rappaport. But if you watch the tape on Brady, it's clear that he adjusted his gloves and kind of played with his hand a little bit throughout the season. Maybe there is something to this idea that there is an injury with Tom Brady worth monitoring now against now a really good Jacksonville defense. Oh, by the way, led by one Tom Coughlin. New England Patriots fans, you all know what Tom Coughlin can do to your team, i.e. the 2 Super Bowls that Coughlin won with the New York Giants. So I do have some key matchups for all of these games, or both of these games here. Let's take a look at the key matchups for New England and Jacksonville. So I mentioned Jacksonville's weakness, interior in the middle of the field. So Rob Gronkowski against Miles Jack and Telvin Smith could be where the game is won. Tom Brady's going to do a lot of 3-step drops, a lot of quick throws, a lot of, dinking and dunking and horizontal passing game. That's what New England likes to do in the first place. I could see a lot more of that in this game just to protect Tom Brady. And honestly, Dion Lewis is going to be a fixture of this offense as well. So Rob Gronkowski going to be a big-time factor in the middle of that defense. Now, Patriots front 7 against Blake Bortles. So Bortles, like most quarterbacks out there, have struggled against pass rushing and, being under pressure. That's just kind of typical for a quarterback. When you're under pressure, you kind of stink. Trust me, Blake Bortles, I get it. I played intramural football quarterback when I was under pressure, threw a lot of interceptions. I get it. So can New England's front 7 get after Blake Bortles in this football game? Well, the real question for me is, can they stop Leonard Fournette first? Now, I'm giving the edge to the Patriots in terms of front 7 versus Blake Bortles because I really don't trust Blake in the postseason, regardless of what I saw last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Jaguars are mostly here in the AFC Championship game due to the legs of Leonard Fournette. He balled out against Pittsburgh. He did tweak his ankle in the process, and he has been somewhat limited this week, but he's likely to play. If that ankle buckles again, ladies and gentlemen, the Jaguars have 0 chance. The Jaguars lost 4 of 5 this season when they didn't rush for 100 yards. That's their magic number. All right? So if the Jaguars can run the football effectively, then, the game will change, the flow will change, and perhaps you keep Tom Brady on the sideline. By the way, Fournette became the youngest player in the Super Bowl era to rush for at least 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in a playoff game. So revisiting these key matchups here. So I'm giving the edge to New England, Rob Gronkowski versus the linebackers of Jacksonville. As you see those logos on the left side there. So who wins in these respective matchups? That's where I kind of have the indicators. Patriots front 7 versus Blake Bortles. I give that edge to New England. Josh Lambo, the kicker for Jacksonville, has had a really good year so far. And he filled in the midway point of the season for the Jaguars. He's going up against, of course, the Patriot faithful, a 12th man, if you will, the Foxborough crowd. I'm giving that edge to New England here. And then finally, Tom Coughlin versus Bill Belichick. Look, when you think of the ultimate Patriot beaters, you think of 2 people, John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens and Tom Coughlin. Sadly, John Harbaugh is golfing this week, so we have Tom Coughlin here, who's 5-2 against Bill Belichick, notably those 2 Super Bowl victories, Super Bowl 42 and 46 respectively. Brady posted a 69.4 and 51.6 passer rating respectively against the Giants in 2007 and 2001. So I'm going with Jacksonville here as that edge for Tom Coughlin versus Bill Belichick. And usually you give Bill Belichick the edge, right, in many respects, but not in this one, oddly enough. So those are my key matchups in the AFC Championship game. Now, I want to take a look back at the Patriots pass rush because I do think that is notable here. So you have the situation with the Jaguars and the Patriots. The Patriots walloped Marcus Mariota for 8 sacks last week and pressured him on 39.6% of his dropbacks. And Mariota has a better offensive line than what Blake Bortles has. So Bortles has a 64.5 rating when he was under pressure and has just 5.5 yards per attempt. Now, if Fournette runs wild, all of those stats are meaningless. So you're looking at the Patriots pass rush. It's gotten better. And so I'm giving that front 7 the edge against Blake Bortles this week. A final note here on Coughlin, because you better believe, now that he's an executive, he's in the front office and all that stuff, he's spilling all of his secrets that he has about Bill Belichick to one Doug Marrone, who, of course, is the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he is tipping his hand, in a sense, telling Doug Marrone all the secrets that Tom Coughlin knows. But I couldn't help myself, even though Tom Coughlin isn't the head coach, to kind of put these two together. Because Coughlin is going to give so much information to Marrone, and Marrone's going to apply a lot of that in this football game. All right, so Jaguars, great defense, great front 4, and they have the blueprint, if you will, to get after Tom Brady without blitzing. How do you beat Tom Brady? You pressure him in the interior of the offensive line without blitzing. So Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, etc. have to ball out in this football game. Now, at the end of the day, can Blake Bortles put up the points needed? This Patriots team is not going to be a complacent team, guys. That time has passed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers were the complacent team a week ago. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be facing a much more competitive squad this week. And I mentioned how Tom Brady could be leaning on Dion Lewis a little bit. The Patriots have been really solid in the ground game, just like the Jaguars have been. Dion Lewis has 507 yards from scrimmage over the past 4 games. The Patriots are 8-0 when he exceeds 100 yards rushing / receiving. So in that vein, I think Dion Lewis has a pretty darn good game. I think he's pretty solid in the passing game, and I think he finds some success in the interior of that Patriot offensive line going up against that Jacksonville front 7. So Jacksonville, New England, 3:05 Eastern on Sunday. The New England Patriots will win this game 23-17. It's going to be close. Patriots fans out there will be biting their nails, so there's no doubt about that. I do think there is something to be said about Tom Brady's injury, and I think it might limit him a little bit, and I think the Patriots know that. So New England might do more of a time of possession kind of game plan, controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football effectively, and not necessarily blowing out the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that's why I have kind of a close 23-17 score. And if the Patriots win, right, they got plenty of time for Tom Brady to heal to get ready for Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis. So the Patriots, well, they're going to Minneapolis to take on who? Well, the winner of this game. Minnesota versus Philadelphia, that game at 6:40 Eastern Time on Fox. So, this game here, this is going to be a defensive slugfest in my eyes. It could come down to a couple of special teams plays to put one team over the top. Nick Foles is going to have a big-time test against this Minnesota defense. He's going to have to rely heavily on Jay Ajayi. By the way, for the Vikings, this marks the Vikings' first NFC Championship game since 2009, you may recall, against the New Orleans Saints, Brett Favre, that interception, all that good stuff. This is the Eagles' first NFC Championship game since 2008 when they took on Arizona, and the first one in Philadelphia since 2004 when they took on Atlanta, and the Eagles advanced to the Super Bowl that year. All right, so what I'm looking at here, the defensive fronts for both teams, because they'll be the story in this game. I think they're going to win on both sides. The Vikings sport kind of a beefy front seven, right, with Linval Joseph and Everson Griffin, Anthony Barr, Tom Johnson. Meanwhile, the Eagles really pride themselves on speed and pass rushing ability. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Timmy Jernigan, Vinnie Curry, Chris Long, etc. These guys are legit. Pro Football Focus rated them as the best pass rushing defense in the NFL this year. So who has the advantage on the offensive line to kind of combat these defensive fronts? I think it'd be Philadelphia's, especially on that right side. Lane Johnson at right tackle, Brandon Brooks at right guard has been an unsung hero for Philadelphia, had a great week against Atlanta. And then Jason Kelce at center. Outside of Alex Mack, probably the best center in the NFL. And Minnesota's offensive line isn't awful either. Case Keenum was only sacked 22 times this season, but it showed some holes last week against New Orleans. So I'm leaning towards Philadelphia as the offensive line advantage, but make no mistake, both these defensive lines are going to ball out. Now, for Keenum, he wasn't awesome a week ago, and the Eagles generated 238 quarterback hurries and 81 hits in the regular season. So in that sense, it looks like Case Keenum better not be doing a lot of seven-step drops and all of that stuff. So, fly, Eagles, fly, or skull? Comment with your vote in the weigh-in, and we'll be tracking what you say here on the broadcast live. Let's take a look at my key matchups for this one. With the edge on the left side, well, it looks like the Vikings are winning big time in my key matchups. Jalen Mills versus Stephon Diggs, obviously going with the Vikings with the edge in that matchup. Look, this is going to be tough for Mills. Mills gave up an NFL-high 9 touchdowns in coverage and was the only Eagles corner to allow a passer rating north of 90. He's going to have a tough time against Stephon, who's coming off what probably is the biggest game of his career. You know, and if he goes on to win the Super Bowl, I'm sure that might still be 1B to what that divisional game was for Stephon. So Diggs led all wide receivers in Pro Football Focus's yards per route run efficiency metric during the divisional round. So he's bringing a lot of good momentum into this matchup. And with Adam Thielen likely taking the attention of Patrick Robinson or Ronald Darby, Mills is going to need some help. There's no doubt about it. So I think Stephon Diggs is going to win that matchup big time. Now, Everson Griffin versus Vaitai, who is the left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Vaitai has replaced Jason Peters, of course, and he sports a poor Pro Football Focus grade, and he's going up against Everson Griffin, who may decide essentially this game in my eyes. Vaitai has been competent since replacing Jason Peters, but he really hasn't faced a test like this. And in the regular season, Vaitai tied for the second most sacks and hits allowed among offensive tackles. Meanwhile, Griffin, who rushes from the defensive right side 91% of the time, is one of the better disruptors in the NFL. So this will be a grinded out type of matchup. And I'm seeing a low score. And Nick Foles at the quarterback position was efficient against the Falcons, but going up against probably the best strong safety in the NFL in Harrison Smith, look out. Because Harrison Smith is going to be balling out in this game, and I think Nick Foles has to be very careful about his decision-making down the field. So Mills versus Diggs, Vikings get that edge. Griffin versus Vaitai, Vikings get that edge. Same deal for Foles versus Harrison Smith. I do give the Eagles an edge in this matchup. Mike Remmers, left guard for the Vikings against Brandon Graham, the defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. Graham has had a great year. Fantastic year on that defensive front, a big reason why they're the best pass rushing front four in the National Football League. So if the Eagles are to win this game, it's going to be in the interior of that defense coming up and pressuring Case Keenum and forcing Keenum to have those throws similar to the one we saw last week in that interception to Marcus Williams, right? Remember that play? Keenum was under pressure, floated one out there, and it was picked off. Okay, that's what the Eagles are going to have to do in this game if they want any shot to beat Minnesota. If you are a loyal Cam Rogers Show listener, you probably know who I have winning Super Bowl 52. And so you probably know who I have winning this game. The Minnesota Vikings will beat the Eagles 16-13. Defensive showdown at the Link. Eagles fans out there, I've been saying it for weeks. I have had faith in you. I think you have the pieces to make a Super Bowl run. Carson Wentz or no Carson Wentz, I've been on board all this time. But eventually, you just play a team that's better than you. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are that team. Now, if the Saints were to be on the road, very possible, I'd be picking the Eagles in this game. But that's not the case. It's the Minnesota Vikings. I love that defense. And I think the Vikings are going to shut down Jay Ajayi. The Falcons did not do that. The Vikings will, and it's going to be all on Nick Foles, and that's where I have my concerns. So, Vikings into Super Bowl 52, and the Patriots into Super Bowl 52. There you go, your conference championship previews. This is the Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. Hey, folks, Cam Rogers coming at you. We're presented by Mizzen and Main. Fantastic performance fabric shirts. Check them out, comfortable.af. Not just shirts, though. Pants, hats, and so much more. A great array of products made right here in America. Comfortable.af is the website. All right, we're rolling along here on the Cam Rogers Show. So sticking with the playoff theme here, I'm power ranking the 4 potential Super Bowl 52 matchups, and I've got the spreads for you as well. Let's take a look at number 4. This one has the least intrigue in my eyes. Jacksonville versus Philadelphia. The Jaguars would be favored by 2.5 if this matchup were to go down. Wow, that'd be pretty crazy if it would be Nick Foles versus one Blake Bortles in Super Bowl 52. This would be a minor ratings nightmare in my eyes, just because it's Jacksonville in the Super Bowl. But you do have Philadelphia, which is nice. You got a big fan base in that regard. But still, this really isn't an optimal matchup. Yeah, it'd be fun from a defensive standpoint, watching Jacksonville's D and Philadelphia's D go at it, respectively. But it has the makings of a 9-6 kind of baseball score. And that's not really what the casual football fan wants. Let's remember, everybody watches the Super Bowl. And so to make everybody happy, mostly for the general and casual NFL fans, they want scoring and points and all that stuff. Not so sure we get that in Jacksonville versus Philadelphia. So they're at number 4 in terms of my power rankings. Number 3, New England versus Philadelphia. So a rematch of the old days of Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid, etc. The Patriots would be favored by a touchdown in this matchup. Yeah, I see some intrigue here. Philadelphia's front 4 against Tom Brady, and I mentioned how Jacksonville has the pieces to beat Tom Brady. Philadelphia has the pieces as well. Heck, Minnesota does too, right? Talking about a front 4 that can get after the quarterback, and you can drop the other 7 players into coverage. That's the New York Giants formula of old. But I have them at 3 just because I really don't want Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. And again, I'm thinking from kind of headline and storyline and media standpoint here, you know, the general intrigue. And yeah, you got 2 passionate fan bases here, but in terms of the X's and O's and potential points on the board, this could be like a 30-17 kind of score, 30-13 score in favor of New England. So that's why I have Patriots versus Eagles at number 3. I have both of the Eagles games 4 and 3 respectively, which means the Vikings will be in the top 2, and they aren't. Minnesota and Jacksonville checking in at number 2 in terms of power ranking the potential Super Bowl 52 matchups. So if you do like defensive football, this is your game. The Vikings would be favored by 5.5 in this one. This, too, has the makings of 17-13 kind of score, kind of like the number 4 ranking that I had with Jacksonville and Philadelphia. But I think this one has even better defensive intrigue than number 4 here. And I think Case Keenum is a better quarterback than Nick Foles, marginally, but he is better. And so that's why I have Jacksonville and Minnesota at number 2. Look, I'm splitting hairs, by the way, folks, like 2 through 4 here because, you know, you're forcing my hand in a sense to either put like Blake Bortles in the Super Bowl or Nick Foles. Let's face it, outside of Tom Brady, these quarterbacks aren't exactly headline grabbers, not the Ben Roethlisbergers and the Drew Breeses of the world. So Jacksonville versus Minnesota is my number 2 matchup. Finally, New England versus Minnesota. Shocker alert, I have them at number 1. This is the matchup that I predicted going into the postseason. The Patriots would be favored by 3 in this game, and I just think from an all-22 standpoint, from a coaching perspective, X's and O's standpoint, this would be so fun to watch because you're talking about the offense, Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady game planning against Minnesota's defense that is so good at every level. It's not just a good secondary. It's not just a good front 4. They got it going on every single line. And so that's what intrigues me so much about that matchup. Because Bill Belichick, you know, he prides himself on attacking your weakness. And I mentioned how the weakness for Jacksonville, the interior of that defense, in the middle of the field against those linebackers with Rob Gronkowski, I am hard-pressed to pick a weakness for the defense for the Minnesota Vikings. So it'd be just so intriguing to watch. So which Super Bowl matchup do you want? We want your votes flowing in right now. Pats versus Eagles, give us a heart. Jags versus Eagles, give us a like. Pats versus Vikings, give us a laughing face. And Jags versus Vikings, give us a wow face. So throw in those votes, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be tracking what you say here on Facebook Live. All right, so to recap, power ranking the potential Super Bowl 52 matchups here. Patriots, Vikings at number 1. I think that one brings the most intrigue. Jaguars, Vikings at number 2 because those 2 defenses would be pretty fun to watch. Patriots, Eagles at 3. I think that has blowout potential. And the Jaguars versus Eagles at 4 just because the quarterback matchups, not great. So there you go. It's the Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I'm Cam Rogers. Check me out on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Download the podcast version of the Cam Rogers Show. There's the website right there, chatsports.com/Cam Show. Get me wherever you go. If you miss any of the show, you got to run. You can run, do some errands here on this Friday, or you got a meeting coming up with your sales team at the office. That's fine. Head on to that website, download the episode for today, and give it a listen tonight or tomorrow. We appreciate all of the support out there for the show. Keep those comments flowing, those reactions as well. I'll be sure to answer any questions you may have. So I power ranked the potential Super Bowl 52 matchups. I've got hypothetical scores for you now. So let's start off with Jaguars, Eagles. Who would win the Super Bowl in that matchup? I've got Philadelphia, 21-14. Hey, Eagles fans, I told you, I still think that defense is legit. I think the pieces around Nick Foles on the offensive side can get it done. And if the Eagles somehow beat the Vikings on Sunday and the Jaguars somehow stun the Patriots, I think you guys win against the Jaguars. Blake Bortles in a Super Bowl cannot be trusted. And if the Jaguars do end up beating the Patriots, it's going to be because Tom Brady's hand is really worse than what we all think, and Jacksonville's defense gets a couple of defensive touchdowns, and Blake Bortles' weaknesses get masked again. I don't think that happens against Philadelphia. Blake Bortles will be playing against a very good front four. The Eagles have, ball hawking ability in the secondary, Malcolm Jenkins, etc. So give me Philadelphia in this game to win if the Jaguars and the Eagles do battle in Super Bowl 52. So there you go, hypothetical score number 1. Let's get into the next one here, and in this case, Patriots versus Eagles. I'm giving Philadelphia the benefit of the doubt that they'll make this a one-score game, but I have the New England Patriots winning this football game, and it could be worse than 30-23. It could be 30-13 or 16 or something around that range. But if New England and Philadelphia do battle, I have a lot of faith in the Patriots to get it done in that game. I think Tom Brady can attack Jalen Mills and the middle of the field as well. So, by the way, Tom Brady will have some time to get healthy with his hand and all that good stuff. So Patriots, Eagles, I've got the Patriots winning that hypothetical matchup. How about this one? Oh, my God. Vikings versus Jaguars. I told you it'd be a slugfest, a low-scoring game. Give me the Vikings, skull baby. They win 17-3. They hoist the Lombardi Trophy. I don't think Blake Bortles and the Jags score a touchdown. So give me Minnesota in that one. And finally, this is the matchup that I am predicting will happen. Patriots, Vikings. The Vikings win Super Bowl 52, 27-24. I'm telling you, that defense for Minnesota is so legit. I think they get after Tom Brady. They have that New York Giant kind of success from the Super Bowls of old. And Case Keenum wins Super Bowl 52. And by the way, the Vikings get the home field advantage too, because Super Bowl 52 is indeed in Minneapolis. So which two teams will advance to the big dance, ladies and gentlemen? Send in your votes in the comments section. And let's recap what we've got here. So my hypothetical scores for all 4 potential matchups. There you see my pick on the left side there with the respective logos. Vikings 27, Patriots 24, Vikings 17, Jaguars 3, Patriots 30, Eagles 23, and then Jaguars 14, Eagles 21. So everybody has a shot at winning the Super Bowl except Jacksonville. Sorry, Jags, because, well, Blake Bortles and all that. So speaking of those Jags, they have the longest odds to win Super Bowl 52, plus 650 here. And if you are planning on putting any money down at this point in time, please do me a favor. Don't bet on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, just look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, can Blake Bortles win a Super Bowl? And your answer to yourself is probably going to be no. And so there's really no need to put any money down on the Jaguars here, especially considering they have similar odds to this team, the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 625. I have a lot more faith in the Eagles to win a Super Bowl rather than a Jacksonville Jaguars team. So I'm putting my money down on Philadelphia. Not wholeheartedly, not all in, but I'm throwing a few bills down. Why not? I mean, with those odds, with that number, and Philadelphia playing at home in the NFC Championship game against Minnesota, sure, why not? Now, you see a big-time gap between Philadelphia and Minnesota here. Here are the Vikings odds, 210. And, well, of course I'm going to go all in on Minnesota in terms of my betting because I have them winning Super Bowl 52. It'd be kind of contradictory if I didn't. But also, you look at their number at 210, and we'll show you New England's in a minute here. There's a bit of a gap. And so you're really not making much money, even if you do bet on the Patriots. So why not take the chance on Zimmer's led Vikings and that defense to get it done in Super Bowl 52 at home, air quotes, at home. So there you go, Vikings 210, Patriots plus 105. Again, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the favorites, all that good stuff. If you're a bettor out there, you probably like to take chances. And betting on the New England Patriots right now probably isn't the smartest investment because there's a possibility they could get stunned against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday, if this Tom Brady hand injury is worse than what we all really presume. So New England, of course, the favorite to hoist the Lombardi Trophy, but by no means it's going to be an easy cakewalk for New England. So the latest odds, to recap, Patriots are the favorites, Vikings at number 2, Eagles at 3. There you see that big gap, 2 and 3. And then there are the Jaguars with the longest odds. So Casino Cam, where should you throw down your money? Philadelphia Eagles plus 625. I think it's a very, very safe bet to make. You look at the odds, and not too far from Jacksonville for dead last, honestly. And, you know, people are probably going to put their money on Jacksonville now because everybody's seeing the news about Tom Brady and the hand injury and all that good stuff. You should channel your money towards Philadelphia because I still believe in that defense. And, again, they have that home field advantage this week at the NFC Championship game. Sure, why not throw a few bills down on Philadelphia? And sticking with the NFC theme here, I've got the Minnesota Vikings as well as a best bet because, well, I have them winning the Super Bowl. So there you go. Certainly throw down your money for Minnesota. Skull! This is the Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I am Cam Rogers. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. What do you think about my power rankings or my projected scores and all that stuff? Hey, hit me up in the comments section or hit me up on Twitter. You think I'm a moron? Let me know. If I'm right online, hey, let me know too. I like some positivity as well. All right, folks, let's get into a little offseason magic here. So salary cap cuts are coming, and we could see some big-time names be released. And so we're going to count you down from number 10 to number 1 here in terms of quality of the player and the potentiality that they could be released. So let's get to number 10 here. Tamba Hali, linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, has been a fixture of the Chiefs franchise, second in career sacks for Kansas City. Injury-riddled season for this guy, though. Really sad. He just did not play a lot, and even when he did play, averaged roughly 20 snaps per game here. And I think retirement at this point is an option for Tamba Hali because if he looks at himself in the mirror and sees his 2017 campaign, he probably understands that he's starting to wear down a little bit now, right? And maybe it's time to go out on top. Pro Football Focus grade this year of 54.2, and the Chiefs would save $8 million in cap space if they were to cut Tamba Hali. Look, this guy is going to be in the Chiefs Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor, however you want to put it. They're going to put up a banner for this guy. Has been so good for so long. But it's that saying, right? All good things, you can finish it, right? Come to an end. I think that's the case here with Tamba Hali. I think he's on his way out, and perhaps we could hear about him retiring pretty darn soon. So he's at number 10 in terms of potential salary cap cuts. At number 9, Orlando Scandrick, cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. And I've seen a lot of comments from Cowboys fans out there. They want Scandrick gone. They want him cut, and perhaps they see the future of that defensive backfield with Chidobe Awuzie and Xavier Woods and Jordan Lewis, etc. Scandrick's 30 years old, guys, so he's got an $8.2 million salary over the final 2 years of his contract. That hits the Cowboys' salary cap for $5.3 million and $5.6 million the next 2 years. And if they cut Orlando Scandrick, you get a little savings here of $3 million. The Cowboys awarded him with a 5-year, $18 million extension in the offseason following 2014. And let's face it, guys, there's been no return on investment with Orlando Scandrick, mostly because he's been hurt often. Scandrick this year, the 114th ranked cornerback, according to Pro Football Focus. So you couple that with the fact that, he's not getting any younger. The Cowboys already put a lot of investment in him, and it's not panning out. Perhaps it's time to look ahead to the younger players on the defensive side in that secondary for the Dallas Cowboys. Orlando Scandrick, probably the more likely candidate to get released rather than a Cowboy player I'll talk about at the top of the board, but stay tuned for that. So Scandrick is in at number 9. Let's take a look here at number 8. Going to a wide receiver, Randall Cobb for the Green Bay Packers. Look at his numbers for 2017. Yeah, that's not great. 66 receptions, just a shade over 650 yards, 4 touchdowns. Signed a 4-year, $40 million deal after a really good 2014 campaign, but he's been bad since. Limited as a slot receiver, never surpassed 85 yards receiving this season, and struggled even when Aaron Rodgers was playing quarterback. And oh, by the way, Davante Adams signed a 4-year extension in December, just last month. So you see where the loyalty lies there, right? Because Green Bay, they're buying in on Davante, and I find it hard to believe that they would release Jordy Nelson over Randall Cobb, but it could happen. So it looks like Randall Cobb is the odd man out in this situation. Pro Football Focus is 55th ranked receiver this year, and I think it's time for Cobb to perhaps try a new change of scenery. Cap savings for the Green Bay Packers, if they were to cut him, $9.5 million. That's pretty enticing. At the end of the day, Packers are going to have to cut either Jordy or Randall. Probably going to be Randall. He's there at number 8 in our rankings. Number 7, Michael Crabtree, wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. Serious case of the drops this year. And, of course, we all know the fight that he had with Aqib Talib. That just was not a good look. And a new regime now in Oakland with John Gruden coming in as the head coach. It'll be very interesting to see if he wants Michael Crabtree to hang around here. Cap savings, $7.75 million. Pretty darn good. And the Raiders, well, they don't have the most cap space in the world, 22nd most in the NFL. So Crabtree is due base salaries of $7 million in 2018 and $7.5 million in 2019. And there would be no dead cap money if Crabtree were to be cut, which essentially means that the Raiders don't lose out on any money if they were to cut Michael Crabtree. They get a full 100% savings here. So Crabtree signed a 4-year, $34 million contract extension with Oakland back in December of 2015. And it looks like that extension could be cut short here. I think Crabtree could be on his way out. And look, he's going to be highly coveted out there. I still think he's got fantastic talent, and he's got an ability to score in the red zone. He's got a good nose for touchdowns. So Crabtree at number 7 here. Very possible he's on his way out of Oakland. Number 6, Martellus Bennett, tight end for the New England Patriots. Now, this is very interesting because if Bennett and the Patriots win the Super Bowl, I think Bennett retires. He gets that ring. He moves on, walks into the sunset, and see you later. Really hasn't been a factor this year. It's kind of been a reserve for Rob Gronkowski at the tight end position. The Patriots would get a lot of cap savings if they were to cut Martellus Bennett. Bennett, by the way, due a $2 million roster bonus on the first day of the 2018 league year and $4.45 million in cash due over the course of next season. All of that put together, Martellus Bennett likely out in New England and likely going to retire with a Super Bowl victory if indeed the Patriots get it done. All right, so Bennett is at 6, tight end. Let's go back to linebacker here. Derek Johnson, Chiefs' all-time leading tackler, and it's been reported he's unlikely to take a pay cut. So the Chiefs, they have some decisions to make here, and I'm thinking that they're probably going to cut Tamba Hali. They'll get some good cap savings there. And I'm thinking they cut Derek Johnson as well to save $8 million. Derek Johnson's play over the course of the last 5 years steadily decreasing. Pro Football Focus's 34th ranked linebacker this year. I think it could be time to move on. Derek Johnson's still going to be sought after. He's a good leader, very intelligent player. And, when you think of the Chiefs, you think of Derek Johnson and Tamba Hali together. But it could be a situation where we head into 2018 and the Chiefs don't have Johnson, the Chiefs don't have Hali, and maybe they don't even have Alex Smith at the quarterback position. So Derek Johnson there at number 5 as a potential cap casualty. Number 4, another linebacker, Clay Matthews for the Green Bay Packers. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think the Packers cut him. Like I said, it's very possible they cut Randall Cobb to kind of soften the blow there with their cap situation. Clay Matthews, solid Clay Matthews type of season. Had a few injuries, missed a couple games, 7.5 sacks this year. He is turning 32, keep that in mind, and was questionable going into a couple games as well with a groin and hamstring injury, respectively. Recently had clean-up surgery on his knee. Pro Football Focus's 27th ranked linebacker. That's pretty darn good. And look, definitely not as expendable as Randall Cobb. Clay Matthews is going to be a Packer for life. He's a big locker room guy, household name. Everybody knows him up there in Wisconsin. Really, everybody knows him in the United States. Harris Rubenstein brought this up yesterday. He's been on ads and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, he's got national presence. So I think Clay Matthews stays in Green Bay. But you look at that cap savings there, $11.4 million. Who knows? So we'll stay in Green Bay. There's Clay at 4. Jordy checking in at number 3. Nelson really struggled this year for the Packers. Never surpassed 79 yards receiving, turning 33. Of course, you got the Brett Hundley factor. I get that. But Davante Adams had a pretty solid year, and Brett Hundley was playing quarterback for him too. So it's like, okay, you know, you got to look at the situation here, and maybe it's a situation where Green Bay cuts Randall Cobb, but they move Jordy Nelson into the slot. It's quite clear he cannot create as much separation as he used to be able to. 49th ranked wide receiver, according to PFF, averaged 9.1 yards per catch and finished with 9 straight games under 40 yards receiving. Lost speed and ability to create separation, and it could be a transition to the slot here in having Davante play on the outside for the Green Bay Packers. Cap savings, $10 million, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Jordy is going to remain in Green Bay. So he's there at number 3. I mentioned it, another Cowboy on the board here. Here he is, number 2, Dez Bryant, wide receiver for the Cowboys. So in the 3 seasons since signing a 5-year, $70 million deal, Dez has missed 10 games with injuries and has only 147 catches for just a shade over 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. Has not had a 100-yard receiving game since November 13th, 2016. We got to go back 2 Thanksgivings ago to find his last 100-yard receiving game. He's due base salaries of $12.5 million in 2018 and 19 as well, that same amount, and will count $16.5 million against the salary cap each season. So I'm thinking the Cowboys could actually follow the whole DeMarcus Ware blueprint here. You may recall back in 2013, Ware had 6 sacks, and the Cowboys, transitioning to that 4-3 defense, decided to cut Ware, who was 31 at the time, and the Cowboys had no clear number 1 pass rusher at that point. Then went to the draft. They found DeMarcus Lawrence. I think that's working out pretty well. So the same could happen here. The Cowboys cut Dez Bryant with no clear number 1 wide receiver in sight. They go to the draft, they find their guy, and things work out that way. It's a risk, but also very possible. So what do you guys think? What should the Cowboys do with Dez Bryant? Should they cut him? Should they keep him? Restructure the contract a little bit. Dez Bryant has mentioned he does not want to take a pay cut. So the restructuring could be a bit of an issue. So there you go, Dez Bryant there at number 2. And finally, at number 1, you know how good cornerbacks are highly coveted in the NFL. Aqib Talib checking in at number 1, cornerback for the Denver Broncos, playing better as he gets older. 15th ranked corner, according to Pro Football Focus, due $11 million next season. So this really comes down to financials for the Broncos. I don't know if they can afford all 3 of the corners. Bradley Roby set to earn more than $8.5 million in salary. Chris Harris carrying a cap charge of about $10.4 million. It's just one of those deals where money's going to be tight for Denver. And Aqib Talib going to his 5th consecutive Pro Bowl. This guy is still balling out. And the Broncos would only have $1 million in dead money if they do cut Aqib Talib. So that's also very positive. So for Talib, it's very possible he is on his way out, and the Broncos decide to hold on to Roby and Harris, and everybody is going to be calling Aqib Talib's agent. There's no doubt about that. So he's at number 1 in terms of potential salary cap cuts this season. Let's summarize my list. 10 through 6, Tamba Hali, Orlando Scandrick, Randall Cobb, Michael Crabtree, and Martellus Bennett. And then 5 through 1, Derek Johnson, Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson, Des Bryant, and finally, Aqib Talib. The offseason is on for many people out there. Only 10 minutes left of the Cam Rogers Show here. We are presented by Mizzen and Main. Fantastic performance fabric shirts that you will love. Comfortable.af is the website. No ironing or dry cleaning needed. Sweat wicking technology. Very comfortable shirts that you can wear anywhere, even to sleep. Comfortable.af. Check them out. And we thank Mizzen and Main for sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show, episode 54 today. All right, let's get into some rumors here in the final minutes that we have on the program. Kirk Cousins, is he headed to the Big Apple to play for the New York Jets? So the idea is that the Jets would promote QB's coach Jeremy Bates to OC because they recently fired their offensive coordinator. And Jeremy Bates worked with Mike Shanahan in Denver. Kirk Cousins has been successful under these Shanahan systems. So you insert Kirk Cousins playing for the Jets, you have Bates at OC, and maybe things kind of pan out there. It's unlikely that the Washington Redskins will franchise tag Cousins for a third consecutive season because the price tag would be $34.47 million. I just don't think they're going to do that. So it's either going to be a long-term deal or they're going to let Cousins go. So Cousins, along with a good draft by the Jets, I think would immediately be a relevant team in terms of playoff contention. I mean, they were a fringy kind of playoff team for a few weeks during this season. We were talking about how the Jets were kind of in the playoff picture, albeit they were hanging on by threads, but that is a lot more than what we expected from the Jets this year. We thought they wouldn't win a game. So you bring in Kirk Cousins, probably the best quarterback who will be available in the offseason. Could mean a lot for the Jets franchise. Cousins has started every game for Washington from 2015 to 2017, completing 67% of his passes, has thrown for over 13,000 yards, 81 touchdowns to just 36 interceptions during that time frame, and a quarterback rating of 97.5. He's a good quarterback. He can win you playoff games, especially with the pieces around him to make it happen. That's why I am kind of talking about this discussion with Cousins being the quarterback, but also the Jets having a good draft as well. So could the Jets land Kirk Cousins? Very possible, but Kirk could also go to Cleveland, could also go to Denver, so we shall see. But that is a rumor we are tracking here. Another one, Josh Allen, going #1 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Mel Kiper releasing his mock draft 1.0, if you will, and he has Josh Allen going to the Cleveland Browns. And Kiper was asked about Josh Allen's completion percentage, and this is what Kiper said. Quote, "Stats are for losers, in my opinion. The guy won." He goes on to say, "My evaluations on this quarterback class are really close. I've gone back and forth a few times on Rosen, Darnold, and Allen, but I just moved Allen up to my #1 at quarterback." So this was a recent deal for Kiper. His numbers aren't impressive, I know, but the NFL is all about projection, and he has a high ceiling. Coaches want to work with the 6'5" Allen because he has all the tools. Well, we've fallen in love with tall, strong-armed quarterbacks before, the Josh Freemans, the Mike Glennons, the Paxton Lynches of the world. How did that all work out? And trust me, I am a victim of this as well. I fall in love with the big, strong-armed quarterbacks. Just not working right now, at least in terms of recent memory. You know, it's kind of like the smaller, quicker, gritty guys are the ones that are playing good football, i.e. Deshaun Watson was having a great year until he got hurt. So could Josh Allen go #1 overall? Of course he could. Will he? Who knows? That's a rumor we're tracking. Next, the Tennessee Titans are looking for a new head coach. Mike Vrabel completed his second interview yesterday. Matt LaFleur, offensive coordinator for the Rams, will interview today. Steve Wilkes waiting in the wings as well. I think Vrabel should be hired by somebody. I'm just not sure the Titans are the best fit. Now, if the Titans get a change at offensive coordinator, maybe Vrabel makes more sense as the head coach then, right? Because the Titans maybe find a way to replace Terry Wabisky with a Frank Reich or John DeFilippo or, heck, even a Todd Haley. Then Vrabel as the head coach, I think that would be kind of a good pairing there. So we'll see what happens. More interviews to come next week for the Tennessee Titans. Next rumor, Jarvis Landry. He's getting frustrated with the NFL. Landry, I hear you, man. So what's going on here is Landry's agent told the Miami Herald that the Dolphins made an offer in early December, and the Jarvis Landry camp followed with a counteroffer shortly after, and they're still waiting from the Miami Dolphins. So it sounds like to me the Miami Dolphins leadership is not checking their DMs. So you might want to do that, Miami Dolphins, because Jarvis Landry, it would be a shame for him to leave because he wants to stay. He's voiced his interest in remaining there and has been really a great wide receiver. Look at his stat line. I mean, the guy is a target monster, and be careful. If you let Jarvis go, he might go to New England. And Landry himself has expressed frustration with, the business side of the NFL. He brought up a really interesting point, how the NFL is kind of portrayed as a family and all this stuff and la-di-da and unicorns and flowers and all that good stuff. And behind closed doors, it's a dynamic of me versus them. That's how Jarvis put it, right? Because he's trying to get a contract here, and the Dolphins are like, not doing anything. So it's kind of the darker side of the NFL in a sense. So really interesting point there from Jarvis Landry. Could he be leaving Miami? Well, it looks like it's trending that way. And how about John DeFilippo? I talked about him as a good fit as offensive coordinator for the Titans. Well, he could be heading to Arizona. The Cardinals are going to be taking their time here with their head coaching search, but a second interview is coming for John DeFilippo. Of course, can't happen until Philadelphia goes through its game this week. If they lose, John DeFilippo can interview next week and go along with things. If the Philadelphia Eagles win, well, of course, they go into the Super Bowl, and you get that bye week, so DeFilippo can interview next week in that regard as well. So with Mike Munchak rejecting an interview offer, I think that paves the way here for John DeFilippo to be Arizona's new head coach, and I think it'd be a great fit, especially if the Cardinals grab Baker Mayfield in the draft. Ooh, that'd be a good pairing there for Arizona. All right, John DeFilippo to the Big Toaster. We shall see. We're tracking that rumor here on the Cam Rogers Show. A final word now that just broke moments before going on air. Le'Veon Bell, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, reportedly did not participate, at least for the whole duration, of the walkthroughs for the Steelers prior to the Jacksonville game. So it's like, all right, here we go, another ingredient here in the chaos that's ensuing with the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. You have these minority owners wanting Mike Tomlin fired. You have Le'Veon Bell, who's not going through the walkthrough as he should be. Oh, boy, Pittsburgh Steelers. And Ben Roethlisberger, and Todd Haley, the rift that went on, at least that's been solved. Todd Haley is out as offensive coordinator, but Pittsburgh Steelers going through some trouble right now, so there you go. A final word here on the Cam Rogers Show. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. I am Cam Rogers. We thank you for coming along for the ride here on this program. If you missed any of the show, don't you worry. Keep it right here on this video. We will loop the show for the next few hours, so more analysis on Conference Championship Sunday and potential salary cap cuts as well, and so much more. So keep it right here. By the way, if you had to leave at some point during the show, or you got to leave right now and you missed something or whatever, download the Cam Rogers Show podcast version. Chatsports.com/Cam Show is the website. Leave a review, subscribe, download, all that good stuff. It's going to be a fun football Sunday. Patriots, Jaguars, Vikings, Eagles. Enjoy your Conference Championship Sunday. I have all the highlights, all the analysis and storylines coming up for Monday's show, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy your NFL Sunday. We'll see you.